Ricky. I don't want to.
Okay, great. Okay. Okay. So as just a prelim or an overview to what we're doing, let's talk a few minutes. I want to talk a few minutes about Birkat Hamazon, and then do the first perek of Birkat Hamazon, the first chapter, because it relates to what we're going to be learning here. So first of all, and just unmute when you want to respond, or anybody who doesn't have background noise, please unmute throughout the class. What is the purpose of Birkat Hamazon? Purpose. We consider parts of the Birkat Hamazon deoraita, right, biblical, not rabbinic, which is very unusual for a prayer. And it has a specific purpose. What would you say it is? It's one of the most important prayers that we have. What would you say it is? Joe, what do you say?
Give thanks, no?
To give thanks, right? For what purpose? So giving thanks is always good, right? That's always a beautiful thing to do. But where are we going with the thanks? Where are we going with it? There's another element to it that's very interesting. So, and this is an important underlying factor in Judaism in terms of how we look at the world. And that is that gratitude begets blessing. Gratitude begets blessing. So when someone is going through a difficult time financially, one of the things that rabbis may suggest is have bread more often during the week, so that you have the obligation to say Birkat Hamazon, so that you express gratitude to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for what you have, because gratitude is an almost direct trigger for more beracha. Gratitude triggers shefa, triggers abundance, triggers beracha. Good? And it makes sense. It's logical. Like a parent or a friend. If someone really sincerely appreciates what they're getting from you, you can't do enough for them, right? You want to do more, right? So Kiviyachol HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the same thing. So the purpose of saying Birkat Hamazon is to express our gratitude, and the underlying element of gratitude is if I'm truly thankful for what I have, and I express it with kavanah. The Birkat Hamazon has to be said with kavanah. It's supposed to be reading the Birkat Hamazon, understanding every word, knowing what we're saying. And here again, therefore, if that's not the case, it should be done in English. But when the Birkat Hamazon is said, understanding it slowly, saying every word, knowing what we're saying, that becomes a very powerful expression of gratitude, which brings with it, God willing, more beracha. So we have some interesting halachot with Birkat Hamazon. For example, let's say you're sitting around the table, 4 or 5 people, and one person finishes his Birkat Hamazon or hers. You're not supposed to get up until everybody at the table is finished, because when one person gets up, it might cause other people at the table to rush. So we have this some unique criteria with Birkat Hamazon that when a group of people, a family, whatever it might be, is saying it together, so then we sit and we wait until the last person finishes, until we close the book and get up. That's the din. That's something that we should be doing. The other thing is, which is it's a nice custom in the Halabi community, in our community, is that if we have 3 or more people for Birkat Hamazon, particularly for Shabbat, it's nice to say it al hakos. It's nice to say it with geffen, with a cup of wine in hand. And the idea is that the person who's saying the zimun holds the wine in hand, says the zimun, everybody says the Birkat Hamazon together, and then at the end, the same person says, Kos Yeshuot Esah B'Shem Hashem Ekra, Sabrim Ranan Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam, Borei Pri HaGefen. So this way it raises the Birkat Hamazon to another level by making it more glamorous with wine. Of course, then the person has to drink 3 ounces of wine, and then would say the man shalosh afterwards. He says the beracha specifically on the wine afterwards. So these are things unique to Birkat Hamazon, and they're things that we should keep in mind. I want to quickly go through the first chapter. We thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, Ha'el Hazan Otanu, the Kel, the God, right, who feeds us and feeds the entire world. But Kol Ha'olam Kulo, the entire world, Bitubo, in good. Now, when we use the word Tob, we know this from other things that we've learned together. When we use the word Tob in Torah parlance or rabbinic parlance, it means to the nth extreme, an absolute, a perfect good. So we open up the Birkat Hamazon by acknowledging that HaKadosh Baruch Hu feeds everyone in the world with an absolute good. We're going to talk about some of the challenges with that in a minute. B'chen, b'hesed, b'revach, u'b'rachamim. With chen, chen means warmth and fineness and charm. And chesed, chesed means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is looking at everyone and everything and how they're connected together. B'revach, with more than they need. U'b'rachamim, and with mercy. Noten nechem l'chol basar. He gives food to everybody and everything who needs it, animals, plants, and people. Ki le'olam hasdo, because the world is his universe of mercy. But more than mercy, chesed, is his universe of absolute interconnectedness. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu understands that he's the sustainer of the world, and he provides for everyone. U'tubo hagadol tamid lo chasar lanu. And in his infinite good and his great good, his largesse, he never cuts us short. He never shortchanges us. Lo chasar lanu, we're never missing anything. V'al yachsar lanu mazon tamid le'olam va'ed. Ki u'alzan umfanes lakol, because he feeds and he provides everyone with their financial sustenance. V'shulchano aruch lakol, and his table is set for everyone. Bitkin mechya mazon l'chol b'yotav asher bara b'rachamav b'rov chasadav, and he's preparing the food and the sustenance for everybody. Ka'amur poter et yadecha u'maspia l'chol chai ratzon, as is written, open your hands and God will provide sustenance. Okay, now, does God provide sustenance for everybody?
Not everybody.
Not really.
Everybody gets everything they need?
Not really.
Okay, very good. So there are people who have very little, right? There are people who have very little. Hi, Sandy, how are you? There are people who have very little, right? So here again, it comes to the gratitude and the understanding. Now let's say person A says this beracha with a full heart, knowing, let's say, that it's post-corona or in corona, and his income or hers is not what it was before. And the level of food that they're going to partake in is not what it was before. So what are we saying here? You give us everything we need. What are we saying? Go back to how I opened it. What are we saying when we say you give us everything we need, Eli? What are we saying?
Eli.
Eli, what are we saying?
Ricky, you know what? I'm not sure where we're going with this, but further on in the Birkat Hamazon, Rabbi Daba a couple of times explained it to me, and I never fully got it because we're always in a rush, and I see him at a wedding. It's bakol mikol kol. He gives everybody what they need, like our forefathers. Beautiful. So I'm not sure that means you get everything or something or nothing.
Well,
but everybody gets bakol mikol kol. So that was something interesting.
I was thinking, so if you're worthy, you'll get everything that You're supposed to get.
But it doesn't speak to worthiness here. It speaks to a blanket commitment.
Right.
What's going on here?
I'm not sure. And whenever I read it, I wonder myself.
Right. So it's interesting. When we were kids in high school, we asked our high school
There's
teachers.
background noise, Ricky. Do you hear it?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'll mute you guys for a few minutes. We asked our rabbi about this. We said, well, wait a minute. Not everybody has food. Not everybody has enough food. And the answer is an interesting answer. You know, when we talked about a few minutes ago, we said that this is about gratitude. Now, let's assume for a minute that we're not talking about starving people, because we're not. We're talking about the overwhelming majority of people. Let's leave the starving people, out of it, right? Let's talk about everybody else. Everybody else probably has what they have and then some, even if they have less than what they had before. And here's where we get to the conversation about gratitude. Because am I truly grateful for what I have, even if it's not all that I want? And that's a very important thing and very hard thing to do. Usually, I'm not that expressing that much gratitude because I don't really have all that I want. And I'm asking God to help me get more. Now, it's okay to ask God to help you get more as long as you're sincerely expressing gratitude for what you have. And that's what I wanted to tie back to the beginning of the conversation. Gratitude begets blessing. Where many of us are, and we've all done it, and we all do it, and I raise my hand high, is we're always, not always, but we're often looking at what isn't yet there, what was there before but isn't. How do we get it back? How do we make it back? How do we claim that back? How do we go to the next level? One second. The Birkat HaMazon is saying, God gives. Now again, I want to leave out the absolute extreme cases of people starving to death. Thank God we don't really have that in the world today, but I want to leave it out anyway, even to the extent that it might exist in some remote places. For the overwhelming majority of us, we have what we need and much, much more. Much, much more. It's interesting. I walked through a department store today, a junior department store, for the first time since Corona. And I was looking around in a store I like a lot, and I had no cheshek to buy anything. Not such a good thing, but I had no urge to buy anything. I literally had no urge to buy anything. I felt so distanced from the stuff that was on the rack. Some of it was beautiful, fashionable men's clothing, things I like. But over the last 3-4 months, there became such a pirud, such a separation in my mind and in my lifestyle. And I would imagine that's true for a lot of people. And where that all goes, as business people, we need to be concerned about it. We need to see where it's going to go. But the reality is that all of us have much, 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 much more than we need, thank God. And the Birkat HaMazon is the opportunity for us to shake ourselves, remind ourselves that, hey, wait a minute. I know maybe, La'aleinu, I did more business last year or 5 years ago or before this or after that. I know that. It's true. But now I'm in the gratitude prayer. And in the gratitude prayer, I have to make a point to say what's really true. And that is, I have much more than I need. Because we know, God forbid, it will never be. But if we had to live on a fraction of the food that we have on our disposal, we could do that too. So as a prelim, as a mevor, as an introduction to this Mishnah, I want to suggest that people, all of us, including me, I raise my hand with everybody, recast the Birkat Hamazon to the level of importance that it needs to be. And when we're saying it and understanding the words we're saying, we're making a point to tell ourselves how much benefit we have, how much gratitude we need to express, because we all know that a lot of the time we spend in our waking hours is not feeling the gratitude for what we have. Hi, Joe. It's
Hi, sorry, I had
about,
a meeting.
not at all. Great to see you. It's thinking about what we want and need and would like to have. Good. Hey, Adrian, how are you?
Hey,
Nice to see you guys.
so happy to
Okay.
see you.
Thank you. Too. Good with that? We're good with that? Everybody okay with that? Okay. So now let's start the Mishnah. Hu haya omer, and this is Rabban Gamliel. Aseh ritzono kirsoncha, kidei she'aseh ritzoncha kirsono. Make your will his will, so he will make his will yours. Now, obviously, the him is God. What does it mean, make your will his will? What does that mean?
Follow his laws.
I'm sorry?
Follow his laws, act according to what he would want you to
Okay,
act.
but talk to me about the will, Joe, about the will, my ratzon. We know the ratzon, the will is what drives everything, right? So when we
Your
say,
desire.
huh?
Your
Even
desire.
before we get to desire, let's talk about will. Will is like my gasoline, right? In a human being, the ratzon, the will, is the gasoline that pushes that person forward. So when you say make, the individual should make his will God's will, what are we saying with that?
That to be content,
Mimicking.
whatever Hashem gives you.
Well, no, even before contentment, before we're going to come back to contentment. You're absolutely right. But before we talk about contentment, so let's take two people, right? Let's take two people. Person A thinks about his or her day and what needs to be accomplished. And what he or she is thinking about are very reasonable, sincere, and worthwhile things. Great. Person B thinks about his or her day and what he would like to accomplish within a context of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What's the difference?
That
What's the
one
difference?
couple automatically wakes up and is it's ingrained in their blood and in their body to wake up, pray, do mitzvot, live your life that day, all with the conscientiousness of Hashem is all over us, all around us.
We
Yeah.
have guidelines.
We have guidelines, and this is a sense of being. It's a state of mind, right? Like you guys are saying, it's a
Ricky.
state of mind.
Also,
So-
not to expect to get always. Just give.
Not
Give.
to expect, but
But also to live it,
huh?
to
What's
live
that?
it. You're living it.
You're living it. Exactly, you're living it. And what Rabban Gamliel is saying here is a very powerful statement. He's saying if a person is willing to do it as Jeanette described, to put himself into a mindset, into a God mindset, you living his life, not patching things in from time to time, Torah-related thing, but just living a Torah-related life, then Rabban Gamliel says a very interesting thing. He says, then if you make your will God's will, in other words, if you build your day the way he hopes you should build your day, your will become his will. Meaning, and it's the same thing that we're talking about with Pirkei Hamazon.
Understand.
There are triggers. When a person sincerely moves his life to a point where it's God-centric and Torah-centric, then God is now with you. He's running with you. And what you want now becomes what he wants for you. So I don't have to ask God for what I want. He's with me, leading me to get what I want. That's the difference. Very big difference. I don't have to convince him to come across the line to me. I don't have to do that. All I have to do is put myself in a certain mindset, and by doing so, his will and my will become aligned. The same way, when I express gratitude, it brings beracha. When I enter into a certain mindset, it brings a certain flow, a certain positive energy. The streets open up, leading to what I need and what I want. We okay with that?
You know, Rick, you said a very, very key term for me, which was patching in. You know, the alternative is the patching in, which I think is what many of us do.
Yeah, so like what, Joe? What would be an example?
You know, saying shachrit and then going off, as opposed to just waking up and being in a state of mind all the time.
Right, that's what we're talking about.
It's different.
That's what we're talking about. And I'll tell you something, and we've talked about it in different ways because it's referenced a lot in the Pirkei Avot in different ways. But it's really what Raban Gamliel is speaking about here. Make your will and God's will aligned. Make it aligned. And by the way, it doesn't mean I strive for less. It doesn't mean I work less hard. It doesn't mean I want less. On the contrary. It shouldn't mean, doesn't mean I build a smaller business. Doesn't mean I care less about my hobbies. Not at all. It just means, to your point, to what you and Jeanette are saying, I'm doing it in a lifestyle, in a mindset that is a Torah mindset. And it's just a different head, just simply a different head. And as we've mentioned before, you know, and there are triggers for this. Everybody has their triggers. You know, I know with me in my life, I really enjoy different types of clothing. I really do. I really, truly do. I grew up with a father, Alav Shalom, who was extremely fashionable. Till his last day on the planet, he was extremely well-dressed and elegantly dressed, and that's how we grew up and so on. And I love clothes. I really do. And I enjoy a lot of different types of clothing. But what I find for myself is, and again, this is only for me. I'm not suggesting it works for everybody this way, but in my own life, that what I'm wearing creates a certain mindset for me. So certain times when I feel a little distant, I wear different clothing. I'll wear more dressy clothing, even if I'm at home, because I'm feeling a little distant from God. And for me personally, putting on a woven shirt and a pair of dress pants, and again, it's my own little silliness, puts me in a different frame of mind in terms of my Torah head. So everybody has their little triggers, but that's what Rabban Gamliel is speaking about here. Batel ritzoncha mipnei ritzono. Like you said, Jeanette, you said it perfectly when we just started this point of the conversation. You know, I wake up, I'm praying, I'm learning, I'm doing, this is my life. This is my life. I'm not doing and fitting in my prayer. I'm not doing and fitting in my chesed. I'm not that. Okay, these are things that we know. But what does he add here, Rabban Gamliel, which is fascinating? K'dei sheyebatel ritzon acherim mipnei ritzonecha. Eli, what is he saying here? Mipnei sheyebatel ritzon acherim mipnei ritzonecha. What does that mean, Eli?
Could you translate?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm with you.
Yes.
So that the will of others will become, will be erased, will be mevatel, will be erased, will be ignored for your will. So if you put God's will before your own, God will put your will before the will of others.
Oh,
Sounds great.
Pretty powerful.
so that means you're going up the ladder.
You're going up the ladder, and the power and influence you have in the world is that much greater. If I put God's will before mine, if I surrender to him in that respect, and I'm not using surrender in a negative sense, I'm using it only in a positive sense. If I give myself to that mindset, the rabbi is saying that your world changes,
Ricky, is
that
that
the
a
world
form?
moves in
Is
your
that a form of
direction.
bitachon? Like bitachon as well?
I think
Similar,
I
sounds
think
similar.
I think it's more. I think it's action. It's action. It's the actions. I'm living the action. An example. Let's take another example. During Corona, a lot of people in our community gave a lot of charity. Right? We mentioned this in one of the classes. I found that to be phenomenal. I was so proud and happy for the community in general that our core organization, Bikor Cholim, raised more than their goal, for example, and things like that. You know, they have a huge caseload now relative to before, so they're going to be behind the 8 ball again shortly, unfortunately. But they raised more than they needed at a time when no one was working. That was atzeh l'tzoncha l'tzono. Give your will to him. To your point, Eli, put your faith in him, but put your faith in him with action. The action is, I say, you know what? Aser to aser. I believe it. I believe that when I preempt and I give my money first, I'm going to get it back 10 times over. I believe that, so I'm doing it. What do you mean? I don't have the money because my business is shut down or largely shut down, or whatever it might be. But I'm going to give something now because I'm making his will mine. I'm taking that leap with the hope and belief that it's going to come back to me. That's what we're talking about here. But the rabbi is adding another element to it. And he's saying, and when you do this, not only does God align with you and bring you all that you would like to have, but you have a certain level of power over the people with whom you engage to get what you want. That's a pretty nice reward. Thoughts, questions? I think this is a giant thing for someone like the giant of the generation, Raban Gamliel, to say something like this, to take this position where he says that you can essentially bring God to do what you want if you do what he wants, and to pave the way with people to get what you want, again, assuming it's all sincere and productive and constructive, if you give yourself to him. But it just makes a lot of sense. You know, when our spouses put their faith in us and their love in us and their loyalty to us, wouldn't you do anything for them? Wouldn't you make your will their will? Of course. So that's what we're talking about here.
Ricky, I feel that when the pandemic hit, the younger generation, in my eyes, I think that their views towards Hashem, towards God, now changed drastically. I feel like they all put so much chesed that they never knew they had before. What I saw through the community these last few months was beautiful.
That's great.
And I feel that this is like spot on with what's going on now.
I really
a lot
hope so.
of people don't know what tomorrow brings.
Yeah.
And their parents and they're shining.
You know, I think it's very
That's what
interesting, you know, what you're saying, because, you know, we know our parents had the Great Depression. That was their defining moment, you know, that or the Holocaust was their defining moment, right? And that really shaped their sensibilities about family, about money, about community, about a lot of things. I think that this is our defining moment. And to your point, for us and our children, it's how significant are the changes and how deep felt and long lasting are they. And that's, you know, we went to a party the other night. Jamie and I went to a party. And I walked down, I felt so sad. I just felt very sad. And I said, I don't know. A lot of the people at that particular place, I didn't sense much of a change at all in them. What I sensed was that they were overacting it out because they had that venue back. So I don't know. I believe, like you, that a lot of people grew and took on a lot and understand a lot more about life, like our parents did when they had their great moment, and they'll make those things permanent. I hope so. I hope so. Okay. Any questions so far? What we said is a pretty earth-shattering perspective, and it's worth thinking about. That we're saying effectively that God will align His will with ours when we align ours with His, and that He will align other people's wills to ours when we align ours with His. Okay. Al tifros asmecha min hatzibur. Don't separate yourself from the sibur, from the kahal, from the community. What does that mean? And I think this is a huge point and a very challenging.
Don't intermarry people? No.
So,
Don't
Don't
go out of the.
yeah,
There's power in numbers. There's special
exactly.
bracha.
But hadrat melech, exactly, Eli. That's exactly what the Mefarshim bring here. That there is power in numbers, and in Judaism, it's a very big factor. For example, a lot of mitzvot, whether it be lighting the Hanukkah candles or reading the Megillah on Purim, if we have the opportunity to do it in a bigger kahal rather than a smaller kahal, we should make every opportunity to do it in a bigger kahal. The Al Tifros Atzmecha Min HaTzibur gets more challenging in the following respect. And those of you who are involved in community organizations will sense this very, very clearly. Someone in a leadership position of an organization, right? When a person's in a leadership position in an organization, he doesn't always go by the feelings of the majority. In fact, a leader, what defines a leader as just that, is that he will very often not go by the sentiment of the majority. So for people like the people in this learning who care very much about the community and have dedicated a lot to different organizations, you know that there are times when you are separating from the majority, when you are taking a little bit of a different position because you feel it's an essential position for the organization to take. So here's where I find this particular directive very difficult. Because on the one hand, it's essential that a Jewish person in particular, to Eli's point, make the most of the biggest crowd. It's very, very important. Being a tiny nation, a tiny percentage of the world population, our unity and our effectiveness in crowds, in large groups, is very, very meaningful, very important. At the same time, we have to, at some times, take a position that's where we're alone, where we stake a claim and say, I know there's 30 people on that side of the issue, but I'm going to stand on the other side of the issue because this is what I believe is right. And that's where this axiom gets difficult. How do I do that and still stay part of the kahal? So people do one of two things, oftentimes. Sometimes they just break away from the kahal and they say, that's it. I don't have to be part of the community. I don't have to be part of this community, the center community or the synagogue community or the SPH or whatever the entity might be. And sometimes they say, you know what, I'm going to give up my will for the will of the masses. But neither one is right. The great insight here is having a perspective that's different, that might bring the people to another place and staying connected to them. And I think this is a giant challenge. And again, I think many people will just give up that leadership perspective or they'll separate. And the trick is to stay the leader, to stay the visionary, to have the different direction, even if you're one person out of 100, and stay connected to the 100. That's what we strive for here, and that's what Raban Gamliel is speaking about. Joey Shami, anything to say about
Very,
it?
very, very difficult position to be in. Very difficult thing to do. You have to
That's why
walk
I'm
into,
talking to you, Joe. I know you've been there, so let's hear something.
you have to walk, first of all, you have to walk into any meeting and take off your personal hat, take off your, and be part of the group and looking at what the greater good of the community is. And it's not always that easy to do. And you work with everybody. You got to be diplomatic, and you also got to state your case.
Right,
So,
but
yeah.
you don't give up your case, right?
No, you state your case. You don't give up. Right or wrong. I've been in meetings where I was the sole vote,
Beautiful.
one way or the other,
That's
of a large group of people, whether it be in community meetings or outside community meetings. It was not a
Fantastic.
friendly place to be, but I
But
stood my
you
ground
voted alone, right?
alone.
Beautiful. You
Alone.
got it? You vote alone. It's
Yeah.
very hard to vote alone, to be the one vote in the room. I've been in that situation too. And I had no doubt that you've been in that situation, maybe more than me.
Lonely place to be.
That's right. But you do it. You do it because you're not allowed not to do it. And at the same time, to your point, you remain respectful and compassionate to the crowd.
Yeah.
And that's a very, very hard thing to do. I know for me in my life, I haven't always done it successfully. More times than not, thank God I have, but there are times that I haven't. There are times that I haven't. And the points of view were so dramatically different that there was divergence, at least for a time period. Good?
I'm going to skip a quick one to Adrian's credit. We had a meeting about the center staying open or not staying open way back when coronavirus started, and I was against it staying open, and I acquiesced to the group. And when I got back, Adrian went, because she wasn't at that meeting, she went crazy on me. She made some phone calls to everybody, to Jerome, and within a day and a half, the center was closed because of Adrian.
Beautiful.
So,
Thank God. Thank God. You don't know
yeah,
what might have
it
come
was,
had they
thank
not
God.
crossed. Thank God.
That
Ricky,
saved
that's
lives.
it, Ricky.
That literally saved lives.
I have
Ricky,
no
that's a
doubt.
good lesson, Ricky. That a leader gives kavod to his wife.
That's
Smart,
right.
Joe. You're the man.
And you know,
It's the
it's
sign of
so,
a leader.
the wives have a groundedness that's much
sure.
more real than ours. They do. They just do.
Beautiful.
And even though they're not involved in the day-to-day of the leadership, maybe in this organization, and some maybe they're the leaders and we're not, but they have a groundedness that is oftentimes really more on track than anything else. All right, let's do a couple. Let's see if we can finish it up. Don't believe in yourself until your last day on earth, meaning never fully believe in yourself. What does that mean?
Don't be arrogant. Don't be overconfident. I don't know.
Don't boast.
Gotta be so smart.
Oh, man.
Right. Don't be overconfident. Don't think you're so smart. But wait a minute. Didn't you just tell me to be a leader? So what is that about?
Two different things. The leader takes good advice from people.
A leader
Don't
takes
think-
good advice. Yeah,
You
and?
have to be the smartest.
Right,
Don't think you're bigger than Hashem. Like, don't think you could control a situation
right.
to the
I
utmost.
can take a leadership position and I can, get good counsel for my wife and others and whatever it might be and take a leadership position. But I need to take that position strongly if I believe it's to the betterment of the community while I stay connected. But inside, I always need to know how much growing I still need to be doing. I need to know that. Inside, I need to know how much growing I still need to be doing. And we need to also know, and we've discussed this a lot in our time sharing, learning and ideas together. We know that our jobs with our children is so hard. It's so hard. It's so complex. It never ends, never ends. And in that respect as well, we need to know that every day is another page. And, if a child is 30 or 40, she's still my child. And the pages is yet to be written. And that child's lifestyle is still not firm yet because his parents are still in the picture.
We
So,
never cut the ties. The
We never
famous
cut the
American
ties.
term. We never cut the ties.
That's right. We need to know that outwardly, we need to stake claims, take positions. Hopefully, they're God-based positions. Inwardly, we need to know that, yes, we're proud of the positions we've taken and we're confident in them because you can't second guess yourself to a point where you undermine yourself. We're proud and we're confident, but we also know how much learning we need, how much we have yet to grow in every respect. And that's what he's saying. Don't believe in yourself until your final day. And this one's something we're very familiar with, but the language here is very exciting, very important. Ba'al tadin et chavdecha ad shetagia limkomo. Don't judge your friend until you get to his place. What does that mean?
Means everything.
You can't judge till you're in their shoes.
I
What
love
does
that.
mean?
That's in
What does it
life,
mean?
not just your friend. It's anybody. Never
Anybody.
judge
I love
anybody
that.
till you're in
One
their
second. What does it mean? Give me the literal translation. I'm going to read you the Hebrew again. Al tadin et chavercha. Don't judge your friends until you get to. Ad shetagia limkomo. What does
Because
that
everybody,
mean?
because everybody is always has everybody
No,
always. Yeah,
You can
everybody
never
has
put
up to their-
yourself in
One day you'll be in their shoes.
One
One day
second.
you'll be
Never
in
be
their
in their
shoes.
shoes.
There's a nuance here in the language.
You
I
can
want you
never
to
be in their
catch it.
shoes.
I want you to catch the nuance in the language.
Get
When we
to.
say don't judge a
Until
person.
you're in their shoes.
No, until you can
What's that?
understand. Until you can understand their shoes.
Adrian, when we say don't judge a person until you're standing in their shoes, how do you explain that sentence?
Am
But
I
you can never
unmuted?
be in
You're
Hold
good,
on.
you're good.
Okay. Unless, sometimes, unless you're in that situation yourself, Joey, it's echoing. Unless you're in that situation yourself, you can't understand how they feel or why they would act in a certain way.
Beautiful.
You
So
have to
how do we
experience
look
it
at
yourself.
We look at it as I'm here and they're here, right? Adrian, you with me? I'm
Yeah.
here and they're here. I'm not in their shoes, so I can't judge them, right? That's how we look at it. But the
Right.
language that the rabbi is using here is not that language.
Correct.
He's saying until you're in their shoes,
And
right?
you
You
get
put
to
it in their
this,
shoes.
Everybody's gonna get.
meaning
But you
it's
don't ever get
lived
to
the
someone's
life
shoes.
experiences
That's the
that they
point.
live.
You never get to their shoes.
You never get to
Never get
someone's
to their
shoes.
shoes. Never.
In other words, empathize, don't sympathize.
So that means he can't judge.
You never get judged because you will never have the same life experiences. Ad shetagia limkomo. Until you go through the same steps to get you to the same place. When can that happen? Never.
So
Never.
I
you
love it.
never,
It's amazing. Love
That's a
That's
that.
good
the
one,
nuance
never.
that we
Thank
have
you.
that the Western expression loses. Ad shetagia, until you get there, until you've taken the same steps to get to the same place.
Everybody has different
Really
steps.
can be.
But that's not possible. Exactly.
That's a great
Exactly.
point.
Saying,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Why
Exactly.
does the
Sandy.
rabbi say it that way?
Danny, you said it right.
So the question, Ricky, I think the question is, why does the rabbi say it that way then? Because you could obviously, not only, if I have the same life experience as Eli, the same exact one, I'll look at it completely different than he will,
They'll never
and
be
vice
the
versa.
They're never the
same.
same.
They'll never be the same.
So
It'll
it's
never
like,
be the same.
They're never
never.
the same.
Never be the
Think
same.
differently.
You can never judge.
Too many variables.
Amano.
Too many
We
variables.
can never judge. The
So
bottom
why
line
does the
is,
rabbi? So why does the rabbi put it that way?
that's exactly why.
Making a point.
To tell you that you can never judge. That there's no way
You never judge, right?
circumstances will ever be the same. There's no way. Now, let me tell you
Different
something.
parents, different
America
everything.
is a very judgmental country. Very, very judgmental country. And now with social media, people are judging each other and themselves and at breakneck speed. And this is something that we can't fall privy to, and we do. We judge ourselves, we judge our children, we judge our friends, we judge our teachers, right? We're very, very judgmental.
Everything.
And what the Pirkei Avot is bringing is stop. You can't judge. You want to embrace a person. You want to have them in your life. Have them in your life. You don't want to have her in your life. Don't have her in your life. But don't judge, because you don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
That's really what we're saying. Yes. Very, very.
I
hard.
love it, Ricky. It's fabulous.
That's
This
very
is
Right, but
fabulous.
it's so hard. It's hard.
Thank you.
Great.
Ricky, you had a lot of powerful points in this class. Really.
Well,
Yeah.
so I'm
This
glad
is
I
a great
finally recorded one.
Who's got the note takings? I want the.
We
This
recorded
is the
it,
best
so it's
class.
good.
I think this
We
was one
did?
of your best.
Yeah, this one's recorded, so if we want to go back. Let's,
So I missed the
let's
first
do
20
the last
minutes.
couple
Go.
sentences. Al tomar davar
We're
she'ef
so
shal
far. We're so
shmeya.
sorry we missed
All
the
right.
beginning.
We have it recorded, though. I'll circulate it right. I'll send it right after. Right
Thank
when
you,
it
Ricky.
comes back. Al tomar davar she'ef shal shmoa shesofo hishamea. Don't tell a secret because there ain't no secrets. What is he saying? Don't tell a
Everything's
secret.
out in the open. Your life's an
What is
open
it
book.
saying,
There
Victoria?
is nothing that will ever stay secret. So don't tell a secret. The language in the Hebrew is so pretty. I had to read it 3 times because I said, wow, that is so poetic. Al tomar davar she'efshar lishmoa. Don't say something that a person can't hear, i.e. a secret. Shesofo shameya. Because in the end, that thing is going to be heard. It's going to come out.
That is
So
beautiful.
don't say it because it's going to come out. So leave it alone. It's not supposed to be shared. Don't share it because it's going to
That's
come
called
out that
gossip?
you shared it and so on.
Is,
Huh?
is that called gossip? Is that what you're saying?
I think it's beyond gossip is when you're sharing nothing.
That's Haki Balak.
Gossip, the gossip is the rechilut in Hebrew it's just idle talk. Idle talk. Over here, it's something that was meant to be secret. Now you're passing it along in confidence. And what the rabbi is saying is, ain't no such thing. It's going to come out. That's what he's saying.
When 2 people know it, it's not a secret.
That's it. Once the second person knows, perfect, Joe.
It's no longer a secret.
Not a secret. Last point in this Mishnah. V'al tomar lekeshe'efneh ashaneh shema lo tifneh. He says, don't be the kind of person who says, I would love to do this. If I can only do that, I would love to do this. And someday I'm going to do it because you may not make the time available for yourself to do it. So don't say it. Do it. Do it. Al tomar lekeshe'efneh ashaneh. When I have the opportunity to focus on this thing, I'm going to do it. Oh, I love it. I'd love to do it. I really want to do it. And someday I'm going to dedicate the time. I know I'm going to get to this at that point. No. If you want to do it, and it's something that should take an hour a day, dedicate 5 minutes a day, but do it. Shema lo tifneh. Because this type of approach generally doesn't go anywhere. People just simply don't do it. So don't say when I can do it, I will. Just do it and do it on whatever level you can, to whatever scale you can, and make it part of your life.
What was your line? Ready, shoot, aim? What was that?
Ready, fire, aim. Ready, shoot,
Ready,
aim.
fire.
Ready, fire, aim.
That was a good.
Beautiful. All
Ricky,
right,
awesome.
everybody.
Amazing.
Eli, again, thank
Thank
you
you,
for
Ricky.
pulling us all together. Great to
Thank
see
Eli, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
It's
everybody.
amazing. Thank
Have
you,
a
Ricky.
nice
Good night.
evening. Thank you. Stay
Thank
safe,
Good night,
everybody.
everybody.
Stay safe.
Together.
Good night.